thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cyndi O'Meara, Carren Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Carren Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And welcome, because today we've decided that we're going to take you on a bit of a journey of discovery and creativity. Because we wanted to talk about, I guess, each of our individual journeys, and we're going to possibly do a bit of a series. We don't know, we're flirting with the whole idea, but we thought we were going to start with Cyndi. Because one thing that's come up of late with your feedback on Facebook and emails to us is that there are a lot of you guys who listen to the podcasts who have amazing business ideas or who have amazing stories or messages, and are just curious about how you can start in business and develop a business. And I think that each one of us has got a story and a journey around how we've created our businesses and how we've gotten to where we've gotten to, and I guess also what's yet to come. Because there's never an end to it when you start fulfilling your passion and you start living the message of who and what you are. So we're going to start with Cyndi, my sweetest, because you're the oldest.
I love how she says that, you know, that's why we're starting, because you're the old bag.
Well, I was about to say the most experienced, but I thought, no, oldest works.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, fair call,
harsh,
but fair. Let's go there.
Where are we starting? Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start right about the beginning? We reverse it back like when my mum and dad got together?
No, let's go back. It all started back in 1923.
Well, I think the inspiration that will follow this is perhaps more around, you know, they say do your passion and the money will follow, whereas a lot of us end up in jobs that maybe we don't like, or bosses we don't particularly want to work with, or whatever it is. So for people, and I'd imagine a lot of our audience are quite entrepreneurial and quite forward-thinking anyway, some of them may have thoughts and ideas around what they'd love to do, and my line is always, if you could wave a magic wand and money was no option, what would you be doing? And for some people, that said, if money's no option, I'd be on an island in Fiji. Well, great. If you can do that, what would you want to do? Because that's all very well in saying that, but, you know, a week, 2 weeks, fine. A year, 3 years down the track, will you still want to be lying in a hammock in Fiji? I don't know. I don't know if there's people out there that would really want to do that. We've always talked, the three of us, that we would never, I don't know if retirement is even a word in our language.
No,
I don't
not
think,
for me.
No, and I don't think we will, it'll just have a different emphasis. And I think, Cyndi, you're such an inspiration to Carren and I, and being the oldest.
Note how they keep saying it.
Did you just say that Cyndi was the oldest?
I was going to say that she was the more mature.
Or the oldest?
Or she's the only one in her 50s.
Or the oldest?
Oh my God. Well, who needs enemies when you've got friends like these two?
Well,
so maybe, sweetheart, I'd love, we know you, but what on earth got you started, and what made you, did you wake up one day as a child and go, I'm going to be a nutritionist, I'm going to be out there and I'm going to do it? Is that how it worked for you, or did this evolve?
Look, it's an evolution, definitely. And I just want you to know that they've asked me the question, and now they're on their phones and their computers, and they don't really want to listen to me. I'm only kidding you two.
I'm listening. I'm looking at my next question.
I'm actually only teasing you two. You know, you've heard it all before, so, you know, why didn't you just leave the building?
No.
I was actually looking up your website to see if you had a history story on there. Thank you.
No, I'm actually teasing these two girls because I'm quite happy for them to do what they need to do while I have my little chat. You know, it was so funny because I was at a conference on Sunday, and I was in Sydney, and I got out of the bus, and this girl came up to me and she said, "Are you Cyndi O'Meara?"
Was that Christy?
No, just this. No. Her name was Lisa. She said, "Are you Cyndi O'Meara?" And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I follow you," and it went on like that. Yeah. And then I got to the conference and I could hear, "Is that Cyndi O'Meara?" Is that Cyndi O'Meara? Oh, you're Cyndi, aren't you? Yeah. And I'm like, I was a little bit overwhelmed and a little bit blown away that perhaps after 30 years of talking about nutrition that I'm actually now being recognised, like somebody who just goes into a movie and is recognised straight away, that's not hard work at all. But 30 years of now I'm being recognised as somebody who's making a difference in the health world.
And that's really significant, because it means that everything that you've done is leading to somewhere. But at the time you didn't know it. This is the thing that whenever I think about my business and I think about what I could and shouldn't do, I always think about you.
Oh.
Always, always, always. And ever since I met you, you've been a mentor for me. Always. You and my sister are absolutely the examples that I follow all the time.
Thank you.
But you've known that. Like, I've always stood on stage and said my mentor's in the room. The person who started,
So forgive me if I make a mistake. But I get nervous.
But I think that's the thing that makes what you do and who you've been while you've been doing what you're doing so powerful, because at the time you were never, or even today, you're not doing it for the fame and the fortune. You're doing it for the passion and the commitment to the message. And what naturally comes when it comes, but you've never taken your foot off the accelerator. You've never put the brakes on. You've never said, I'm out. Because that was never part of the strategy of why you're doing what you're doing, which I think is what makes you so humble and so beautiful in what you do, and why people want to be in your company now. So they do see you and they go, oh, I got that Cyndi O'Meara. Oh, I got that Cyndi O'Meara. Because you were never doing it for the fame. You were doing it for the magic and the message.
We just want to know, just out of interest, that you'll still speak to us when you're world famous.
And will you sign my boob?
and my butt.
Anyway, just wanted to really point that out as an acknowledgement of you.
Thank you. And yes, we will always be friends. You know that. I do think back at it. Yeah, I will sign your tit, I promise, and I will sign your ass. They're showing me their boobs and their asses, guys. And men are watching right now. I'm sure you would have loved that right then. But if I was to go back, and I always did something because I loved it. I didn't do it because I had to do it. And the first thing I wanted to do was ski. And so I felt like I'd been out of school for 2 years. I'd had 2 years of a gap year. And I thought, well, I'll go skiing. But to go to university, I had to go to the University of Colorado in Boulder because it was the closest place there was to skiing as well. And so it was because of me making that decision that I had a very influential professor named Van Gerven who taught anthropology. And it was through learning about anthropology and food and all of that stuff that I got this passion for nutrition. I remember ringing my mum and saying, Mum, will you find out where I can learn about nutrition in Australia? Because I couldn't afford to stay in America. It was too expensive.
Can I just ask how old you were again?
19.
19, okay.
19. So after 2 years in the US, I came home and I finished my degree in Bachelor of Science, and didn't really like that because it didn't acquaint with anthropology and nutrition. I was learning about margarine and low fat, and yet, in anthropology I was learning about hunter-gatherer and meats and how we ate in the agricultural revolution, etc. So I had a really hard time there thinking that I could become a dietitian. So it was, once again, I went, well, I can't be a nutritionist because I wouldn't be teaching what they're telling me I should be teaching. So I went back to university, did 2 years of human anatomy, and decided to become a chiropractor. But realised my passion was in food, and so quit 2 years. After 2 years of chiropractic, I quit and just started consulting. And I loved it. I absolutely loved teaching people about food. Then when I had a baby, I decided I didn't want to work outside the home, but rather inside the home, and wanted to express how I was feeling. And so I rang the paper and asked if I could write for the paper, which I did. And after a couple of years of writing for the paper, they didn't really want to tell the truth. They just wanted to sell papers. And so when I did want to tell the truth, and it would be against their sponsors, I couldn't tell it. So it was because of that I wrote my book and self-published it. And what's really interesting, that while I was at this talk on Sunday, I had one lady come up to me and just say, oh my gosh, you've inspired me to start this blog. And now I want to write a book, and I don't know what I should do with publishing and where I should go. And I sat with her for 15 minutes and explained the pros and cons of publishing versus self-publishing, or going with a publisher as opposed to self-publishing. And she was in marketing and advertising, and I said, once you've published your book, whether it be through Penguin or who I'm with, or whether it's through yourself where you're the printer, it's the marketing and advertising that is more important than writing of the book. The writing of the book's easy. And I realised that my knowledge there was quite amazing as I'm talking to her, because I'm talking about literary agents, and I'm talking to her about how easy it is with social media when you do an electronic book or you do your own printing. And then I said to her, I remember spending $6,000 on printing my own book and figuring out how many books I had to sell before I broke even. And that was my aim, was to break even. And then once I broke even, then I'd make a profit. So in the beginning, $6,000 was my investment to get my book out there. And then what I did was I started in a really local scale. So I started here on the Sunshine Coast, and I rang, CFM, or if they was then, I don't even think they were around at that time. It was 92.7. So I rang them in the ABC, and I got on radio and sold a few books. And the aim was to get on television. And so I kept ringing television stations, like Brisbane Extra, which doesn't even exist anymore, and Today, Tonight, and The Current Affair, and nobody wanted me. And now finally Brisbane Extra wanted me. So I remember getting on Brisbane Extra, and I went to Maya in the city, in Brisbane, and said, I'm going to be on Brisbane Extra, can I put 10 books here? Because I thought, well, if I sold 10, that'd be pretty cool. So I put the 10 books in there, and I went on Brisbane Extra. It was Easter Monday night. I remember it really well. It was Easter Monday night. And by 9:10 on Easter Tuesday, so when everything went back to work, Maya rang me and said, we've sold you 10 books. Can we have 10 books for every one of the Maya stores in Southeast Queensland? And I said, sure. So I got my van all ready, and I put all the names of the stores down and figured out where I went to go. And that was before the time of GPSs, so I was mapping it all out. And I put the 10 books in each of the boxes to be delivered. And then 9:30, I get a call from Maya going, could you make it 20 for each store? By 10 o'clock, it was, could you make it 40 for each store?
Before you'd even left.
Before I'd even left.
Wow.
And then it was like 10:30, it was, could you make it 80 for each store? So at that stage, I had to get somebody to come and help me. So we packed the van, and the next day I actually went, and I remember going into one of the Maya stores, and there's people waiting for the book. This is what blew me away. There's people waiting for the book. And I walk in with my jeans and my T-shirt on and with boxes in my hand, and women are pulling the box apart, pulling the books away from me. And I was like, what has happened here? Like, what did I say? But I sold 3,000 books that week.
Isn't that awesome?
So I
feel like I want to clap.
And at that point I went, I have a message that people want, and it's my message, and it's what I love, and it's my passion, and so for many years that's all I did was just sell the book, and I'd do talks and sell the book. I'd do talks and I'd sell the book. And
were Penguin happy with you?
Well, they weren't with me at that stage.
Did you self-publish?
I self-published in the beginning. And then
that's right, your investment was $6,000.
$6,000. And then after, and I'd sent my stuff to Penguin, to Random House. I think I went to 15 publishers and nobody wanted it. And then because people could see how well the book was going, and it was a self-published, I actually got a call from Penguin. And then they asked me, would you like to come with us? And, to me that was, oh my gosh, somebody wants my book. And so I did end up going with Penguin, and I am still with Penguin today. How long I've been with them? Since 2000, and we're now 2014, so I've been with them 14 years, and I have a 50-year contract with them.
Well, they locked you in.
I have 50 years with them.
Wowza.
Yeah, so I've done 14 years of my 50 years. I've got 36 years to go.
So does that mean, from a business perspective, you can't write any other books and not put it through Penguin? So does everything that you write have to go through Penguin?
No,
just that changing
book.
habits. Okay.
And I can change that book, and it won't be with them anymore.
Okay, so if you do a rewrite of it,
they like I can go elsewhere, but that is the title that's with them.
Yeah.
And then I gave them 2 years international. So I was going to give them 50-50, 50 years international, 50 years, because I didn't know any better. And then a friend of mine who's in publishing said to me, you really do need a literary agent, Cyndi. So I ended up getting a literary agent, Tim Curnow. He was just amazing, and he said, I don't think they need 50 years to get you internationally. Let's try 2. And so after 2 years, they got me into career in Greece, not into America and England. I got myself in there. And it was this whole, that was my education. It was like education by fire. Is that what you would call? Or, you know, that's where I was.
Baptism of fire?
Baptism of fire. That was what I'm trying to say. And it was a learning process. And you know what? One thing led to the next, led to the next, led to the next. And publishing with Penguin, and then understanding the international market. And so it's been a real journey, but I have continued down the same path. I've not changed. I've stayed in nutrition. There's been times I've gone, oh, this is too hard. I don't want to do this anymore.
So what happens when you get to that stage? Like, is there something that actually occurs inside of the business or that occurs inside of the marketplace that gets you to the point where you go, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. What's the catalyst to get you to that feeling? What happens?
Well, the one huge catalyst that got me to that feeling was that nobody believed me.
Right.
You know, and
so
I was
rejection.
ridiculed by mainstream. There were people, obviously, that did believe in me, bought my book, made the changes, saw the benefits. So I was back 20 years ago talking about we shouldn't be eating margarine, we should be not doing low fat, we should be eating eggs. So I was against the Heart Foundation, I was against everyone. Now it's becoming more mainstream with what I've been talking about. But back then, I was really...
Didn't you say you used to have people walk out of your talk?
This is the one talk that almost put me over the edge. I remember I spoke to Happy Slimmers in Caloundra, and there was probably about 80 people in the room, and I was talking about, you know, if you get a McDonald's hamburger and you put it away for 2 years, it won't go off. And I had people go, oh, what rot? What about the lettuce? You know, and I go, no, the lettuce doesn't go off. It just wilts and it sits there. And, oh, of course the bun goes off. And I had people throwing books down and saying, I've had enough. And they walk out. And
That's commitment to MAGAs.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
That is commitment.
That's
but it wasn't
commitment to MAGAs.
wasn't only that. It was, I was talking about, you know, we shouldn't be doing low fat and we should not be doing skim and nobody wanted to listen. And I remember getting off that stage almost at the brink of, please let me out of here, I'm going to burst into tears.
Yeah.
Really on that brink. And at that stage, I remember driving home going, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'll do it for my family, but I'm not doing this anymore. And, you know, things happen for a reason. And at that stage, I remember going to the grocery store on the way home because I needed to pick up some food for dinner. And I'm walking in the grocery store and I run into a friend who actually is the PA to Lisa Curry. And for those people who don't know who Lisa Curry is, Lisa Curry, especially at that time, was one of our Olympic swimming stars and our Commonwealth swimming stars, and quite well known. And I'm talking to her and I told her what happened to me. And she said, oh my gosh, Cyndi, that's terrible. But she goes home and tells Lisa. Now, I know Lisa. She's a friend, so I know her. So she goes back to the office and tells Lisa. And Lisa ends up telling this man that she's about to speak at a conference at. And it's a week-long conference. It's $20,000 to attend. And he says to Lisa, tell her to come to my conference. It's on me.
Wow. Wowza.
And it was all about, you know, going in business and people, you know, ridiculing you, especially if you're doing something different. And it was almost like when something happens you think is bad or good, we've talked about this before, if it's not bad, it's not good, it just happens to take you to the next path in your life. And that was a business seminar that absolutely blew Howard and I away because we both got to go. So there was, because of the Happy Slimmers saying, oh, this is rot, walking out on me and me getting upset, I got a $20,000 seminar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Happy Slimmers. I have been meaning to thank them
Are they
publicly.
still around?
I don't know if they're still around, but they were Weight Watchers. Yeah, they were Weight Watchers. And after going to that, I got inspired again. I went, right, I'm going to do this. I can do this. This is something that is burning in me, and I'm going to keep going. I don't care about the ridicule because there's always going to be people that are going to do that. And so I did. And then, you know, then 5 years ago, Howard joined me. and we got a business coach.
So that's a fairly significant leap, because that's certainly something that I'm actually working with a couple of people whose husbands, and under different circumstances, are starting to join them in their businesses. And there's a couple that I'm working with right now, and financially their businesses are definitely not ready to have, the husband finish up with what he's doing and then go into their business. But out of necessity, because he's been made redundant or whatever the situation is, it just seems that that's the next best thing, which puts, the partner in an incredible position in terms of stress to perform and to produce income to cover both of them. And that's a really big step. How did you and Howie know that it was time to do that? What was the indicators for you from a business perspective? When did you know that it was okay? And was Howie, I'm just throwing lots of questions here, but was Howie keen to do that? Did he always want to do that? Did he create a job for himself inside? What was the process?
It's actually a really good question, because it was all about Howard, this whole thing. And so it always is. Just as well, my husband never listens to these podcasts.
We have to let them know that it is all about them. It is.
All right, just to go on. So Howard's a chiropractor, and he was feeling a little bit trapped in that he always had to be there morning and lunch. He had and afternoon. He had patients. They relied on him. He had to be there between 7 in the morning until midday, and then between 3 and 7 at night. So that was his hours. And if he wasn't there, he wasn't making money, and who else would be there for him? So he felt a little bit trapped. So for many years he was looking for businesses to go into, and he'd find a business, and it was like a $400,000 business, and then I'd work out with him, we'd work out together, I'd go, here's a $400,000, but you're going to have to pay $400,000, it's going to cost us this much in interest, and this is how much you're going to make. You're going to have to work 7 days a week. You're buying yourself a job just over broke. That's what you're doing. You're buying yourself a job. And he'd look at it and go, and we'd go to the next one and the next one. And he could never, ever find something. And his whole idea is make money while you sleep. And what was really interesting is that this gentleman, his name's Chen Tay, and
I know Chen. I met him a couple of months ago.
He's a gorgeous man, and he is a chiropractor also, but he's also an entrepreneur. And he and Howard hooked up somehow, and Chen really believes in my business, which was an information business on books. That's it, website, books, and information. That's all we did. And Chen really believed in my business, and he said, you could be so much bigger and better than what you are, Cyndi. So he would say that to me. And anyway, Chen and Howard hooked up for some reason. They were at the same conference together, and Chen goes, do you realise the potential of your wife's business? And my husband said, no, why? And he goes, it could do. And he went on. So we actually employed Chen for a day. And the three of us sat down for a whole day and we brainstormed.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
To have someone that has that outside influence and that vision. Because often we get stuck in our own way, don't we? With limitations or dreams way beyond. Sometimes we can think so big and dream it's going to be amazing, and it's actually, you need someone to keep you in check. But in your case, you needed someone to...
And Chen is an amazing thinker, and so I recorded the whole session. And we needed, Chen was our inspiration, but we needed somebody who was a little bit more structured in the approach. So Chen would throw me things to do, and I'd go off and do them, and then throw Howard things to do, and... In the end, after we'd had time with Chen, we wanted someone more structured. So we ended up with another business coach, Bruce Campbell, who's with Action Coaching, to structure what we were doing. And Bruce is very structured and very particular in what we had to do. And all I wanted, Howard wanted the big picture, I wanted the day-to-day. And so... Bruce realised that, so he would give me day-to-day stuff to do, and we saw him every week for nearly 2 years, over and over and over again. We would go and he'd give me my task, but he'd speak big picture to Howie, which appealed to both of us. He was absolutely amazing with what he did. And then, because of the three of us always being together, I remember Howard saying one day, how many people ask you, Cyndi, about your salt chapter in your book? So I do a whole chapter on salt, and I go, everybody asks me about how do you get dulse, what's the salt, what's the percentage, how do I do it, you know. So he said, why don't we package it? And so that was the beginning of our food business. So we packaged salt. We sold 400 in our first week, and both of us looked at each other. Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, you know. And we both looked at it and went, this is what they want. You've been talking about this food for 15 years. Now they want you to deliver it. So that was the beginning of our food business, and our food business has been going now for 4 years. I think we're going into our 5th year now. And it was because of that need, that excitement, that want, and now our food business has just overtaken everything. It's huge. We sell to 27 countries around the world. We have 2 warehouses. We're bursting out of 2. We're onto our 3rd warehouse, and we only sell so many foods: salt, sugar, colloidals, greens, probiotics, which are food-based. Everything's food-based. There is no chemicals or anything like that in it. We sell camu, some vanilla. It's not a lot.
Cacao.
Oh, cacao and kimchi oil, yeah. So they're very different foods, but and I don't like to call them superfoods, because to me a superfood is the herb garden you've got in your backyard that you pick your greens out of. That's a superfood. These are just foods that are high in a particular nutrient.
But they're also food-based. They're not made in a laboratory. That's what I love.
Nothing is made in a laboratory, and we source these from around the world, because in different areas around the world, in different altitudes, is where you can get these types of foods. So I'm very much into buy your local produce, you know, get your fruits and your vegetables and your meats and your dairy and your all of those things, buy them local. But what you can't buy local, such as your salts and your sugars and your cacaos and your inchis and your camu, then that's what you purchase from me. And I feel that food that I deliver to people is that gap between eating McDonald's and all of that to getting us to making our own fermented foods. And it's to me, I'm trying to get you there, and I'm just helping you with these foods doing it. So I guess that was the food line and now it will become bigger and bigger. We introduce new foods. This year we're introducing 5 new foods. Next year we'll probably do the same. And what I love about my husband, and I have great pride in what he's done with this business, because I sit up here, and we're in my office at the moment, everyone, and I do sit above the warehouse by myself. I just perch myself up here, and all I have to do is research and write. Whereas before I did dispatch, event coordination, getting in of my books, printing, publishing.
Everything.
I did everything. And now I am the researcher and the writer. And what Howard has done is he oversees the whole business, and we now employ, I believe it's around 15 people.
And has that happened because he came into the business?
Definitely. I was happy. I was happy doing what I was doing. I was teaching. I was writing. I was doing what I wanted to do. I loved what I did.
You also had 3 young children who were still at school at that time, and I think the important message here that I would love people to get is that it's a progression. You don't just jump in and become the person sitting up reading and writing.
Absolutely.
And priorities were different for you when this started. I mean, your book was launched in 1998, 16 years ago. So I sort of think that for you, I think the thing I've learnt from you is don't rush. You know, like don't make...
I don't think you have to have 30 years results in 3 years business.
That's right. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think what's so beautiful about you and Howard is, whilst you both led quite separate business lives, there was always, because of your values and your core values with one another and your family values and your life values, how beautiful that you came to something that now is both of your business values. And I think that's credit to both of you for allowing each other in that way. Do you think if someone was starting now, let's say we've got some listeners there listening and they're thinking, oh, I love nutrition. I mean, you've inspired so many people from a nutritional point of view. We need more Cyndi O'Meara's out there. So I don't believe there'll ever be a shortage of a Cyndi O'Meara message. What would be your advice to someone sitting there going, I love nutrition, I'd love to do, or I'd love to at least help, or they might not want to run an empire like you are or even get to that level, but they might want to write a blog, or they might want to write a book, or they might want to be a speaker to educate and give people your lessons. What's the next step for you, and what would be your advice to them?
Well, I have this question often asked, how do I do what you do, Cyndi? How can I teach nutrition? How can I do what you do? And, it's really hard because I did my Bachelor of Science majoring in nutrition. And I have 2 young nutritionists who work for me who have just completed their Bachelor of Science majoring in nutrition. They have learnt nothing different.
How long does that take, by the way?
3 years is your Bachelor of Science, full-time.
And how do you major in nutrition? Is that during that 3 years?
Yeah, in that year. So you do it's a science degree, but your major is nutrition, food science, physiology. You just major in that area. So it'd be like if someone wanted to do a Bachelor of Science majoring in microbiology or psychology, they can do that. So it just depends what their major will be. What are they really focusing their science? Because science goes millions of ways. There's lots of ways it goes. So I'm watching what they're learning, and they're learning exactly what I learned 30 years ago, which is just so old hat. And it takes a long time for institutions to change. But if you want to be taken seriously, you need a degree. That is my belief, is that you do need a Bachelor of Science degree majoring in nutrition, and then you can go on from there. And so that if you're really serious about this, then that's where you go. But there's also the coaching side of it. And I look at the beautiful Mel Kent. So Mel Kent's somebody who started following me about 18 months ago. Overweight, depressed, and I'm sorry, Mel, if you don't want me to tell the world, but I am.
Too late now.
Too late now, Mel. I've just watched that girl grow. And she's gone from really in a bad way in her health. Beautiful relationship, by the way. A very supportive husband. But really having a struggle in her health and her life as far as that goes, to now excelling in her health and her mental, in everything she thinks about. And she started a blog or a Facebook page. And she then tells information to that. And I was talking to her the other day, and I said to her, you know where your forte is? Your forte is in pregnancy. You have such a passion for pregnancy. Not so much food's important to you, I understand that. But where you're going is about pregnancy and empowering women about things like the glucose tolerance test and ultrasounds and having to have a C-section or not, or, the whole thing about pregnancy and birth. Perhaps what you need to start doing is focusing your attention there. So I look at the way she has travelled through and where she's getting to now and where she'll end up, I don't know. But it's been a passion and a journey for her to get to that point. And so I don't know what people want. And this is what I ask. My first question is to them, do you want to be a coach, or do you want to be a nutritionist that's taken seriously and write a book and you need to get your degree? And so I would send them to either, if they had their degree, I would send them to a postgraduate program in Australia, or I'd send them, if they wanted to just be a health coach, they had a year, they were mothers, they didn't have time, or someone that just needed more knowledge on health and nutrition, I would send them to one in New York. And after 2 years of going, but they're not exactly teaching what I agree with, because I'd seen both the programs, I decided about 2 years ago that I wanted to create my own education program. And this would be for people who had finished their Bachelor of Science majoring in nutrition, for medical doctors, for chiropractors, for physiotherapists, for people that are not taught nutrition. And we know that doctors are taught less than 12 hours of nutrition in their 6 years. We know that chiropractors are the same, but these people are they're primary care practitioners. So I thought, what if I created a program based on the philosophies of changing habits for these people? But then I have so many people that want more information, because they come up to me and say, I had a goiter, they took my thyroid out, what do I do? Now, that's not a simple question to answer. That's huge. And so I want to empower people with knowledge and education to know what path they have to go on for their health. So this has been, another passion of mine is to educate. I've always educated, but to really educate with something that people could take to the next level, where they could become health coaches or they could become clinicians in what they're doing. And if they're finishing their dietetics degree or their nutrition degree and they do not agree with it, then they can do a year with me and know exactly what they do when they get out. Know the right questions to ask their clients, know where they need to put them. I've been doing this 30 years. I've got a lot of knowledge in my head and I've written things down. And so last year I started this whole push towards wanting to do this. So it's taken me probably 2 to 3 years thinking about it, and then going, what do I do? Where do I go? And then asking people and say, where do I go? And people directed me. I asked the right person and they directed me to, this is where you need to go, Cyndi. And then from there I went to the next thing, and all of a sudden, as of Monday, I have a PhD gentleman, his name's Stephen Meyer, beginning work with me to create an education program for the layperson as well as the person with the degree and with the background, working full-time for me now to create this education program.
That's just so spectacular.
It is
just awesome.
Look, I'm bursting because, even to find him has been something that I didn't think I would find. So when I started this whole thing, I found somebody, and she had all the credentials, but she didn't have a biomedical degree. And I was going to be paying her to come up to speed. She was a smart woman. Come up to speed with my information for her to put it into an education program. And I kept saying, I want you and I want someone with a biomedical degree. So then what I did was I got her and I got someone with a biomedical degree, and I put them together. And then, the cost of it blew out. And Howard, my husband, who's the financial controller and the person who runs this whole thing, said, get me another quote, Cyndi. I'm not going with that one. Oh. He did. So I went, oh, gosh, and I was prepared to pay it. But he said, get me another quote. So I went back to my HR lady. I said, Howard's not happy. And she knows when Howard's not happy that she's got to jump.
I think it's really important in business to have a bad cop in it.
Yeah. It is like that. And so she then...
And I just on that...
Oh, because you're in recruitment, aren't you? Yeah.
Well, hold your thought, because I think that the value of what that was there is really quite important, because when you're in business on your own, you're both the person who's passionate about the message and the financial controller. But oftentimes when you're passionate about the message, which is certainly a situation that I'm finding myself in at the moment, I'm throwing money after stuff left, right and centre because I'm the one who's passionate about the message. So now I'm going, well, I'm just going to throw 20 grand at that. I'm just going to throw 10 grand at that. I'm just going to throw 5 grand at that.
And it'll work. It'll work.
It'll work because I'm behind it. It'll work. But to actually have somebody that says, pull it back, be logical, be practical, I think is invaluable. You've just given me the biggest bloody light globe moment that I could possibly have had. Anyway, it's very important when you're on your own. You're it.
You are, and I was it.
Everybody needs a Howie. Hello.
Yeah, well, we had Bruce to begin with. We had our business coach.
Yeah, and I think Howie learnt from Bruce.
Yeah, very much.
Did he?
Because I think where Howie says no, it's all very good and well to say no, and sometimes we can get on an ego trip even in that.
Yeah.
But to say no with reason and structure and
logic and practicality.
And also care. Like it's not saying no forever. It's show me. It's almost like give me a better option, or let's make sure we've explored all our options.
Yeah.
And he's an explorer, whereas I'm a jumper. I will always go, all right, let's do that. Like as Bruce calls me, I'm the ook girl. So we're walking along and I see a little shiny object and go, oh, let's go over there. Oh, no, let's go over there. Oh, no, I want to go over there. And so he calls me the ook girl. And Howard and Bruce were the ones that always brought me back to centre. And Bruce always made me do an ROI, return on investment. What will your return on investment be? If you are going to go and do an education course, Cyndi, what's your return on investment? I had to prove to Howie. I remember Bruce giving me this this whole thing, and I actually think a business coach is absolutely brilliant. Bruce...
What about... Sorry, I just want to ask you quickly on that. What about people that think they can't afford it? Like, how do you do that at the beginning?
Well, that's where we were at. He was going to take 40% of what I took the year before. That's what he was going to take from us in that 12-month, meeting him once a week.
Oh, so he took a percentage of profits.
No. no, I just figured it out that way. I went, I made that last year and he wants that this year. And I said to Howard, can we afford him?
But what about people that aren't? So the first 5 years of business for a lot of people, there's not a lot of profit. And you're actually really trying to get yourself off the ground. You see, you were quite established in the sense of you had a product, you were selling it, you were creating a profit. Every year you were having a profit. I'm just asking you, what do you think about someone at the
wasn't making that much money. You got to remember Howard was also earning a wage. When I think about that year, we make that in a week what I used to make in a year now. So I wasn't doing that great, but the potential was there. And you know, when you start university, you have to spend money to get an education, to get it. And that's what I ended up looking at Bruce like. I went, that's a university degree. That's what that is. And it was Howard and I going to university to learn. And so it was a huge amount of money. It wasn't cheap at all.
Did it make you step up even more though to pay for that?
Yep.
Because I know with my coach, or whatever, even though he's a beautiful coach and I'm not actually having to pay him at the moment, they're really good coaches. But what I'm finding though is he's made me really accountable for what I'm spending and everything, and in fact his input, and I'm now looking at whether, because he's not got enough time for me, I'm looking at whether I do employ someone like that, and I'm at that point. So you're saying your business will grow faster with it, but what if it's the wrong person? How do you know that's the right person?
We didn't know he was the right person, but we trusted him. When I first met him, I remember thinking, oh, you're just a little upstart.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah.
I remember you even telling me that.
Yeah, you're just a little upstart.
I hope he's listening.
Yeah, I hope Bruce I'm going to let Bruce will enjoy this because
he would know that.
He would know that because I've told him. And I remember in the beginning, I'm paying this guy, and I'll tell everybody what I was paying him. I hope that's okay. But I was paying him $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month. And I paid him $3,000 a month to avoid him. Because he'd make me do things. And I'd avoid his phone calls. Because he'd make me do things. And I'd avoid. And all of a sudden, after about 2 months, I went, I've just paid this guy $6,000 to avoid him. That does not make sense. And that's when I really got on board. I really got on board and went, I have to do what he tells me to do. And I used to get really upset because he wouldn't let me do my oohing. But, you know, we've had Bruce in our life. We now have him as a bit of a board. We only meet 4 times a year now. That's it. We don't need him with us anymore. But when we do need him, like yesterday, it's so funny, Howard and I are trying to make a decision on what we're going to do about something. And I said, do you want to go and meet Bruce? And just see if we can nut it out as to which way we should go, because we're just having a bit of a dilemma. And it's not either of us are having an argument about it. It's just we're just not sure which way to go here. So here's one of our board members, you would say, and there's only really 3 of us in that board members, and when he comes in, he really clarifies it. But Bruce always made me do a return on investment. If I remember we were trying to decide whether we should put somebody on the road to sell Changing Habits, Changing Lives, or we should put me on the road to do more speaking. So it was either we hire a sales representative or we hire an event coordinator. So I had to do an ROI on both, and the ROI on the event coordinator was
10 times more.
Unbelievable.
So great to get that clarity.
It was clarity. So we decided that we were no longer going to distribute. We were going to stay on the internet, and we were going to have more events and really good events, and get, you know, that was the split we did. So all the time, this is what we did, and the same which happened when I had this woman and another woman, and I put them together, and they both had to be communicating. I had to pay them both. You know, it's double the cost of one person. So that's when I went and found, now we're going back to the education program. This is when Howard said to me, you need to find somebody, or get me another quote, or do something different, get who you want. So I did my manifesting Matisse. I wrote down exactly what I wanted, who I wanted, what I needed this person to be like. And for some reason I had a male. Now I have mainly females that work with me, but I had a male in my mind, and I don't know why. Whether he already knew he was going to be with me, and I knew he was going to be with me because of a past. You remember we talked about that last time, Kimmy. You know, last week we talked about that I just feel that our soul was connected. I don't know this. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I had a male. I had what he looked like. I had everything I had manifested.
Do you think sometimes too that happens for that balancing? You know, like like the yin and the yang. It's going to appeal to both. You know, it's an equal industry, really. Although I say that, and yet you went to that conference just recently.
800 women.
People, and they were all women.
All women. 20 men were in the room, and that was
That's
it.
interesting in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it really was. So I put it out there, and guess what? All women applied bar one man.
Wow.
And then I remember sitting and looking at all of the people that had applied, and my HR girl said to me, "There's only 2 that I would interview, Cyndi," and it was one male and one female. And as I'm reading through his resume and everything he's done and everything about him, I'm getting hot. I'm getting like, oh my gosh, he's everything I asked for, and he's a male. And it was just weird that it was just this whole male thing. I don't know why, but I'm like reading through it all. I said, my gosh, he's got everything. He's got everything. And the female, she had part of it. And then when I rang my HR girl and Sally, and I said to her, this is the one. I know he's the one. I know this is the one that I've been looking for, and who I've had in my mind, and who I wrote down exactly what I wanted from him. And then we interviewed him on the Monday, and as I'm looking at him and listening to him, and I'm just going, you're the one.
Is he a spunk?
It was so funny because the girls are going, now remember, Cyndi, you promised us a good-looking one. You know? And just a bunch of girls, yeah, I think he's... Oh gosh, he's going to listen to this and go, oh my gosh, you were thinking that of me, you know. Anyway, his office is all ready, as you see, you know, his office is all ready. And I did end up interviewing the girl. But just that it wasn't there. This gentleman, and I felt like he just dropped into my lap at the right time.
Literally.
Now who's the time?
Yes.
But I did. I feel like, and you know what? He moved from another area, from another university, hoping with his wife. His wife wanted to come back to the Sunshine Coast, hoping that he would get some employment, and saw this and applied for it. And I know that he's the right person, and I rang all these references.
We'll have to interview him.
We'll give him a bit of time to get used to us, I think, Kim.
Right.
He hardly knows us. All he's had is one interview with me. But I'm so excited. I was at this conference. There was 800 women in the room, all from the New York course. And my course is very different to the New York course. I'm not doing the same things. And as I'm speaking to some of the women that had kind of surrounded me, and they said, what are you doing now, Cyndi, and why are you here? Are you doing this course too? And I said, well, actually I was invited by somebody to come to this, and I'm absolutely blown away that there's 800 women in the room who all want to become coaches of nutrition. This is how big this is getting. When I was a nutritionist, you know, back in the early 80s when I was doing my degree, 20 girls were in my class. Now you have to have top marks to get into nutrition because it is the new field to get into. And what I'm offering now, so there's another arm of Changing Habits. So we started as a book. That's where it started. Changing Habits, Changing Lives started as a book. And did I plan this? Did I plan to do, did I say when I was 2 years of age or 16, this is what I'm going to do? No. I just feel that I've been guided and put in the right place, and people have dropped into me.
And it's an evolution.
It's an evolution. And don't think you have all the answers. And just, even though we had a plan when we met Bruce to where we were going, it was never a plan to become a food company. It was never a plan to become an education company. It was just, what can we do to better our business, to get the message out there that we want to get out there? And I'm floored by it all. I'm floored where I am, and you two are very instrumental in this happening, because this podcast has we get a lot of people coming to my website from this podcast, and I don't know if you're doing your stats on your podcast on your website, but this has been huge. And Carren, I think I can thank you for both of you actually. But to think differently. my relationship with Howard has not always been an easy one. And Kim's always been there to calm things down for me. And I remember one day Kim saying, well, for God's sake, Cyndi, either get on with him or get out, you know. You do. You're very hard.
It's a bit severe, isn't it?
And then you, Carren, I realised I was just reading
it's all
him
your
wrong.
fault.
Yeah. It was all my fault. It was all my responsibility. So between the two of you, I look at Howard now. So not only has my business grown, but our relationship has really changed. And it's evolving like you wouldn't believe. But so is our business. And I look at him and he is...
Flourishing.
He's flourishing, isn't he? He's amazing.
He's hot.
He controls...
She said that, Howie.
I love you, Howie.
He doesn't listen to this, but he runs this show. And the culture in changing habits is amazing, and people want to work for us. I have people saying, how can I work for you? And I go and see Sally. She's my HR girl. Go and see her, because it used to be I would invite friends, you know, would you work for me? But now we don't do that. We actually go through Sally. She knows us. She knew who I needed, because all she did was come and sit with me for an hour, say, right, tell me what you want, Cyndi.
It's the power of an HR. I've never realised the power of the HR people.
Sally knows it. Sally said recently, she goes, I think I'm going to sell my business and come work for you guys.
When Howie met Sally.
And it's true. It's true, you know, like, and Sally and Howie get on really well. And Sally has given us, we have a great team around us. And yeah, I just recently, Howie and I were just kind of sitting down having a cuppa, and I just said to him, do you realise where we've come and where we are going?
I was going to ask you that. Do you celebrate along the way? Do you do small celebrations, or are you always trying to look for the next thing?
We're not ones to drink champagne, as you know, Kim, because I destroy champagne by putting those little red things in there to make them taste a little bit better. You know, the little hibiscus flowers.
Oh, God.
Kim, I have to tell everybody, Kim brings around Moe, or what's the other one you bring around? Verve.
And because, stop it. That's
look, see, these two know it.
something fabulous.
I don't like champagne whatsoever. And Kim brings it round, and I go, can we put something in it to taste it just a little bit better, please?
I don't waste it on her anymore. I pour her a brandy now.
She does.
Or what's the other thing you love? Vodka light? No.
Mojito.
Mojito, yeah.
But you know what's absolutely fabulous?
Oh, what?
Is Cointreau on ice.
I agree with
lovely
you.
orange, something fabulous and quite decadent. One has a moment when one has a Cointreau.
Do you know, I think the way Howard and I celebrate is not with the Cointreau. They've lost it, both of them.
I think
we celebrate with going away together. Like we'll go and hike to Annapurna and do
fabulous things.
Yes, I think Karen's like going, "What you know?"
Beats bloody Cointreau.
I think you also celebrate, like at the Christmas party last year. I thought that was a beautiful celebration and an acknowledgement of the team. And I think now, what I've learnt from you is that this is a team effort now. It was all you for so many years, and to see you now express yourself fully, being able to do that without running around after driving children and around everywhere, and without having to manage the home as well as selling your books, packing, orders, websites, accounts, like doing all of that. But I still believe that part of the business, or that part, don't not enjoy that journey, because that part is building the foundation, I believe, for what is to come. And I think Karen's taught me this, that there's no wrong. Like really appreciate where you're at right here, right now, because it is the building block to where. And sometimes we may not be ready for that big jump, or we may not be. For me personally, I'm a little bit of a jumper, and I'm kind of, I want to be there now. I want to get there now, and I might make a decision based on my passion, like you, Carren. And I think lately I've really, since I have become the sole driver of my business. I think because I've been in partnership all my business life, I think I've gone the other way now, where I've now become the sole driver, that I now am even more harsh on myself. Like, you know, I won't make that jump anymore, because now I've got to prove it. And I think, so there's no right or wrong how you get there, I don't think. I think it's just a I've written some things here that I would love to summarise what you're saying a little bit later, but I just think what I'm learning from you is just never drop that passion, never stop believing and being open to the possibility of where this is going. I mean, we're all blown away by where it's going and excited and just so rapt that, I mean, we joked years ago that Cyndi should be the Prime Minister, But I remember walking our beach and saying to you, Cyndi, you actually have to start screaming this out, because people like us that don't have a Bachelor of Nutrition but we're totally passionate about nutrition, we need someone to be our voice. And if you're the voice and you've got you're the Pied Piper and you've got all of us in behind you, that gives you even more power. So I think we need some beacons of light out there, and particularly with your knowledge and information. Do you ever get tired from it? Do you ever wish you weren't doing it? Do you ever have days where you wake up and go, I can't do this anymore? Do you ever have that?
No. No.
Did you? Before you had the team to take up some of the load, did you ever find that there were moments, and it's not a question of the passion, it's more a question of the energy to really sustain every part of the business? When you were doing everything, did you ever wake up and go, I just need a day off, I just need a week, or I just need
When that was
break?
Happening, I had my 3 kids that were heavily, like where Kim is at the moment. So Kim's in a time in her life, she has 9 to 3. That's it. That's all you have. I had 9 to 3. And on weekends I didn't work. I had 9 to 3, or when they went to bed, or I would get up at 4:30 in the morning. So these were my only spaces that I had. And when you're at 9 to 3 and somebody buys a product and you've got to dispatch it, you get really excited. You want to pack it.
So true.
It is, it's true. It's like, oh, someone's bought something. So, no, I was so excited. All the time I was like, oh my gosh, someone just bought something. Oh, I sold 2 books today. Or, oh my gosh, ABC Radio wants to interview me. So, no, I don't.
There's always something to get excited about.
There was always something, and there was always something to get excited about. And sometimes I would be thinking, oh gosh, I've got to go pick the kids up. I would do that.
Yeah.
And then I would stop myself and realise that that's my life, is my children. I only have 9 to 3. That's it. And it was so funny, when we started this business, we still had the kids at home. Like Tanya was still at high school. I had 9 to 3, and we started this business as a 9 to 3 business. Do you know that Tanya's been out of school 2 years now, and we've now gone to 8 to 4? We've only just gone to 8 to 4. So there's only one girl here that has children at school. Oh, actually, there's more now with kids at school. But
do you think that having that 9 to 3, because when your kids are home, you're there for the children, and you have to be present for the kids because they force you to. Do you think that gave you balance? Do you think, I mean, granted it's still busy and it's still full on, but do you think it gives you balance?
Do you know what?
That somebody like me just doesn't have.
Yeah, but you do have balance, because I know you love what you do. And the only reason you feel guilty is that you think you have to go out and exercise, or you think you have to go out and do that. But to me, balance is this: you doing what you love. And what I loved getting up and going and walking and swimming. I loved that. I loved getting up at 4:30 in the morning and having 2 hours to myself. Nobody rings you. And writing or dispatching or whatever. I loved going and waking those children up. I loved taking them to school. So which way I was balanced, was I more balanced with my children or more balanced with my business? Didn't matter. It was as long as I was doing what I loved. And I find, I don't know why women have children. I really don't, if they complain about the whole business.
Of doing the business and
of
kids.
Children and kids and time and what they want to do and what they have to do, and they go mad because they've got to take their kids here and there and everywhere. Like, I watch you, Kim. You're a single mum, really, even though you do have a husband, but he's away all the time working.
He's a Clayton's husband.
He's a Clayton's husband, yeah. We don't even really know whether he exists or not, but anyway, he does fleet in and out. I actually think you just get a gigolo.
For a service.
Yeah. Anyway, I watch you, and I remember, you love going and picking up your daughter, because I always say, call me, I'll go pick her up. But you never want me to do that. You never, ever, I say, if you're tired, call me, I'll go do it. You know, I have no kids at home. I'm happy to go out at 9 o'clock, pick her up and bring her home to you if you can't do it, but you never have called me.
No.
So I know you love to do that, and I did too. I loved going and picking my kids up. I don't know what it was. It was, you know, at times...
No one will drive them as well as you will.
Exactly. And they're safe with you.
It's your time to catch up.
It's your time to catch up. It's your time with them. And there were times that I did get angst about it. And I know you can't regret, but I'm angry at myself for doing that. When I should have been present, as we were talking about last week, being present to that moment. And it wasn't until we took the children away from school and from life and went travelling around Australia for that 2 years that I really got it. That I really got that this is what I love. I loved homeschooling them. I loved that time. And then when we got home, we continued to homeschool them. And then there was a stage where it was time to go back to school. And that gave me a chance to get back into my business. So...
It's like you've loved every step. It's like you've enjoyed every process, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. And please don't anybody think that I never had times of craziness and madness and, you know, because I did.
Or, for instance, when her children started drinking and partying and driving. I mean, we could have another podcast on how Cyndi O'Meara really coped through those times, but... Oh, look at that. We're running out of time.
Look, you know what I'm really looking forward to? Is I'm looking forward to Kim Morrison's kids reaching that age. I can hardly wait. but you know what?
I reckon Jake's going to get this.
Yeah. But the really good thing is that Kim became the auntie. Didn't you? You became the auntie. And when I was not coping, I would send Kim in.
And I would go, look, you know, if I was your mother, I would allow you to do that. But, you know, your mum is just, she's on a different planet. She's not very nice. She's not very easy to be around. And, you know, come to auntie. Come to auntie.
True. It worked brilliantly, didn't it?
You're going to be there for mine.
I will be. And it doesn't... For everything that I've done, it's been a village.
I was going to say.
It's been a village. It's a village that's brought up my children. All my friends have helped me. It's you know, how it's been part of it. It's been a village that's created changing habits. I'm not the sole person behind changing habits anymore. I've got an amazing village, an amazing team, and I can see it growing. And I have a vision now. Whereas when this first started, and Howard and I went into our first offices and factory, I looked at him and I went, "What are you thinking? This is huge. We're never going to fill this." I really thought that.
Wow.
And now we're bursting into a third. And I have no more fear over this. I had a bit of fear, you know. Oh, gosh. Now I've got to make sure that I'm making enough money to... I'm employing 2 people now. I've got to make enough money to employ 2 people.
Well, surprise, surprise, as if we didn't already know this day was coming. Lovely old Cyndi. This is our first part of a 2-part recording that's all about Cyndi and her business and her knowledge. So we really want you guys to make sure that you tune in again next week for part 2, because Cindy's giving away some real nuggets of gold and you definitely don't want to miss it. So make sure that you go to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up-for-a-chat and post your comments about your business, your ideas, things that you've been thinking about. You can also go to allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat and leave your comments and posts there. So make sure that you tune in next week to hear part 2 of this beautiful series on Cyndi's business, and we're going to see you on the ride as you become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.